Guys, you're welcome to another tutorial on Sew with Abby channel. In today's video, I'll be showing how to cut and sew this kimono button down dress. This video is well detailed and easy to follow. If this is what you would like to see, then keep watching. Let's get into the video. For this tutorial, here are the materials I'll be working with, and for my fabric I have African print here, which is 2.5 yards. And the first thing I'll be doing is to fold my fabric into 4, as I'll be cutting the back and front together. Now this is the back piece, it is on fold. This is the front piece. I added extra 2 inches, which will serve as the button allowance, and the amount of fabric I folded is 22 inches, although I won't exhaust it. Next thing to do is to draw out a straight line, which will serve as the starting line or the shoulder line. Then from the center fold of this back piece, I'll take my neck measurement. The width is 3 inches, while the depth for the back is 1 inch. For the front neck depth, I'll come down from the starting line by 8.5 inches. Then draw out a V-shaped neckline. Go ahead and determine how deep you want your neck to be. Next, I'll take my shoulder measurement. From the center fold again, I'll take my shoulder measurement divided by 2. And from that point, I'll determine how long I want my sleeve to be. For this sleeve, a 2 inches band will be added to it. I measured 10 inches here, but while sewing, I reduced the sleeve length to 8 inches before adding the 2 inches band, making the total sleeve length 10 inches. From that point, I'll come down by 2 inches for the shoulder slope. Then draw a slant line towards the neck area. Next is to measure the sleeve opening. From the shoulder slope, I'll come down by 10 inches for my sleeve opening. Then connect the point into a straight line. Next thing to do is to take my round body measurement. But before then, I'll need to take my vertical measurement. From the starting line, I measured my shoulder to my waist. I will also measure the length of this dress. Now what I will do here is to deduct 3 inches from my actual length, and that 3 inches will serve as the band at the hem. Then to my remaining measurement, I added ½ inch, which will be used to join the band. Now I can take my round measurement, and I'll be using where the sleeve openings stop as a guide on where to take my bust measurement. But instead of using my bust measurement here, I'll be using my biggest round measurement, which is my hip. My hip divided by 4 plus extra inches as is allowance. Go ahead and determine the inches you want to add as your is allowance. And the total measurement that is there is what I'll measure on the waistline. At the hemline, I won't take any measurement. I will just extend this line to the hem to form an A-line shape. But if you want yours straight, go ahead and maintain the straight line from the waist. Next thing to do is to create a curve towards the sleeve opening. So guys, this is all for the drafting of this dress. I'll go ahead now to cut it out. But when cutting, I won't cut directly on this shoulder line. I'll cut ½ inch before the line, and that ½ inch will serve as sewing allowance. I will cut out the back neck first and also retrace the front neck on the front piece. Afterwards, I will cut it out. After adding drawstring to the waistline, this is how it's going to look like. The next thing to do now is to cut out facing for the neckline, and I'll be cutting out the back facing first. This is the piece I'll be making use of. I'll place it under the back piece, then trace out the neckline and also determine the length I want it to have. After cutting out the back facing, I will also cut out the front facing. This is what the front facing looks like. I will notch the button allowance, and the next thing to do is to start stitching. And the first part I'll be stitching is the shoulder. I'll set the front piece on the back piece, right side facing each other. Head over to the sewing machine to stitch using 1/2 inch measurements. After joining the shoulder, the next thing to do is to attach band to the sleeve, and these are the pieces for the band. It is 2.5 inches on fold, and the length is long enough to go round the sleeve. I will open up the sleeve and set the band on the right side, and I'll be stitching using 1/2 inch measurements. And this is what the sleeve looks like after attaching the band. The next thing to do now is to close this side, and this is how I'll be closing it. I'll use 1 inch to close the side and 1/2 inch to close the sleeve. Next thing to do is to work on the neckline. I want to cut out collar for the neckline, but first I'll notch the center back, and I will also come down from the shoulder line by 3 inches. That is where I want the collar to stop. I will notch where that 3 inches measurement stops. Then I'll measure from one notch to another. That is, from this first notch, I'll measure round to where the other notch is, because I'll be using that measurement to cut out the collar, and I have 13.5 inches there. This is the piece for the collar, and it is folded into 4. My desired length is 4 inches, and the width is what I measured around the neckline divided by 2. I will measure it at the hem here and also add 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Then draw a slant line towards the top like so. I'll come to the center fold and go up from the base by 1/2 inch, then draw a slant line back to the base. And this is all for the collar. I'll go ahead now to cut it out. So guys, this is what our collar looks like. I'll go ahead now to iron interfacing to it, and I will also stitch the 2 sides. After stitching the side of the collar, the next thing to do is to attach it to the neckline. But first, I'll notch the center, then pin the notched part to the center back of the neckline. I will pin it round, and both ends of the collar should stop at that part I notched earlier. I will head over to the sewing machine now to stitch using 1/2 inch measurements. I've stitched the collar to the neckline, and this is what I have. The next thing to do is to use the facing I cut earlier to turn the neckline to give it a neat finishing. This is the back facing, and these are the front facing. I will join the 3 together into one piece. Now you can also use bias to turn the neckline of your dress. You don't necessarily have to use facing. Here I have stitched the facing together, and this is what I have. The next thing to do is to use the facing to turn the neckline, but first I'll notch the center back, and after notching I will attach it to the neckline and pin it round. I will go ahead now to stitch using 1/2 inch measurement. After stitching, I will turn in the facing and also fold in the edge once to run a stitch on it. Okay guys, this is what I have after using the facing to turn in the neckline. I also fold in the edge like I said, and I use hemming gum to hold it down. Now the next thing to do is to fold in the button allowance. I'll give it a double fold and run a stitch on it, and I'll do the same thing to this other side. Here I have folded in the button allowance and also stitched on it, and this is what I have. The next thing I will do is to work on the hem. I want to attach the band at this hem. Now I'll measure what I have. I'll measure it, and whatever I have there, I'll cut out twice the measurements. Now these are the pieces for my band, and I have 2 for the back and for the front. The length is 3.5 inches. After stitching it to my dress, I'll be left with 3 inches, and this is how I'll be attaching it to the hem of my dress. I will stitch it round. Okay guys, I have stitched the band round the hem of my dress, and this is what it looks like. At this point, this dress is almost ready, and it's time to mark where the casing for the drawstring will be. From my shoulder, I'll come down by 16 inches, which is my shoulder to my waist measurement. Go ahead and mark your shoulder to your waist measurement. I will flip my dress to the other side and mark 16 inches from my shoulder as well. Now I have cut out a very long strap for the casing, and the width is 2 inches, and this is how I'll be stitching it. I'll place it directly on the line, then fold in the edges like so. I will run a stitch on the folded part, and that is how I'll be stitching it all around the waist of this dress. After stitching the casing for the drawstring, this is what I have, and the next thing to do is to insert the drawstring into the casing. Here is the piece for the drawstring, and the length is ×2 of my waist measurement. All you have to do is to insert it into the opening of the casing with the help of safety pin, or you can just improvise, and it will come out at this other end. This is what you will have when you are done inserting the drawstring, and all you need to do is to pull on it to tighten it to your desired waist measurement. And the last thing I'm going to do to this dress is to fix the button and create buttonholes. The distance between your button can be 2 to 3 inches, depends on what you want. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching guys. I will see you in my next one.